What's happening, guys? We're back and we're gonna do some fiberglass work tomorrow. So the name of the game today is going to be carbon fiber. The tubing bender that we did last week is working great. I've done some test bends on it. I'm gonna continue to work on that in the evenings, but that's not what this channel's about. This channel's about building this car. So I think what we're gonna do is move on to our dashboard. If you guys remember, oh man, it was a long time ago, we cast this mold off of that buck that we had, and we had just an absolute nightmare. It was the worst experience I've ever had with fiberglass. It all stuck to the buck and we had to chisel it out, and it was a nightmare. And the mold that we got out of it was terrible quality. It had all kinds of pinholes and cracks and crests and crevices. So over the last probably month, I've been coming out here and filling everything in with glazing putty, sanding it back, high fill primer, shellac, the whole 9 yards to get it smooth enough that we can try to cast the dashboard out of it. And I think we're there, and I think that if we keep messing with it, eventually I'm gonna just drop something on it and ruin it. So let's do it. Let's cast a dashboard out of it today or tomorrow. I want to try doing this one out of carbon. I got some carbon fiber from How's That Street Legal. It's not the nice sexy twill carbon, it's actually bias ply carbon. So it's gonna be a little bit harder to work with, and it's gonna give a little bit of a different finish, but we're gonna try it, we're gonna see how it works. It was free, we'll give it a go. But before we can do that, we need to do all the prep work on the mold. So I think we're gonna do prep work on the mold today, and then we'll do all of the actual fiberglass work tomorrow. So for prep work, I sprayed this with shellac last night. So there's still a couple little like fuzzies that landed in the shellac. And there's a couple of drips and kind of smudges in it. So I'm gonna grab some 320 grit sandpaper and knock it back and make sure everything's nice and smooth. We're not going for smooth as glass on this. We're just getting it close because we're gonna PVA over top of it anyhow, and then that surface finish kind of gets nullified. So we'll smooth it back, and then we'll grab the carbon fiber and we'll pre-cut all of our pieces. And then once those are cut, we can start on the waxing process. So let's grab some sandpaper and get after it. All right, there's our pieces all cut and in place. I just gotta make sure that I remember which one's which. So we'll probably stack them in a specific order. And then what I've been doing is with the little off-cut pieces, I've been going through and chopping them up and making kind of a bit of a, kind of like what we had for the fiberglass, where we had those little short strands that we could mix up into a bit of a slurry and fill some of the holes. So I've just been cutting up on any of the offcuts into that. So the material we're using is this, I don't know if you guys are ever gonna be able to see this. It's called bias ply carbon. So on this side, the carbon fiber strands are going this way, and then on this side here, they're going this way. But they're not woven together, they're just laid over top of each other. And then there's a string, basically. They're sewn together. So there's a whole bunch of stitch marks across them. So a little bit different than tweed, where it's actually woven together. This stuff is it's just laid on top of each other. The nice part is, because it already has 2 layers like that, it's inherently very strong because you have that kind of bias nature to it. So we shouldn't need a whole lot of layers. We are going to back this up with fiberglass anyhow, so this is really kind of just a beauty layer. Yeah, I did it in 3 pieces rather than trying to do it in 1 piece, because there's spots where it does a sharp 90 and then a rollover, and there's no way that the material would want to make all 3 of those bends. So we'd end up with just kind of this hump and big air gaps in there. So by doing it at a 3, where there's that kind of hump, the material jams into that corner and then makes a 90, and I can keep pushing that down while it cures. So I think this is the best way to do it. We'll lay these in, and then we'll just put a couple strips over top of the gaps, basically, to tie it together. And those are going to be hidden behind the dash bars anyhow, so shouldn't be a problem. So next step, we will stack these so we remember which one goes where, and then yeah, we'll clean up the mold and start laying wax in it. All right, that is the mold prep basically done. I went around with some packing tape and covered up any of the big ugly holes, and kind of along the edge there where we had a playing card lip. So there's a bunch of spots where the playing cards were overlapping that have a bunch of grooves in the mold. Packing tape is like my secret weapon with fiberglass. It's non-porous and super slippery and flexible. So it's like its own release agent. So you can basically pour fiberglass right on the packing tape and it peels right off. So did that around the edge and then got started on waxing it. My typical waxing schedule is like 6 layers of wax and then let it sit overnight and then another 2 layers the next day. With this, we're gonna cut that back. We did four layers today. We're gonna let that sit and harden up overnight. And then tomorrow morning we'll come in, we'll do 1 more layer of wax, and then we'll be ready to start spraying PVA. So we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, we are back. It's tomorrow. I've already got a bit of a head start, and it's already been a bit of an eventful morning. So I came out, figured I'd get a bit of a head start before I brought you guys in. So I threw another coat of wax on the mold, buffed that off, and then I threw on just a really light coat, like a kind of a haze coat of wax that we didn't buff off. Hopefully that will give us the best shot of demolding this thing cleanly. And then I started on the PVA step. So I went and sprayed the PVA on this time rather than brushing it on. I borrowed a spray gun from How's That Street Legal, so it goes on way easier. But I discovered, I think my air compressor's buggered up. So I have just a little Makita 4.2 gallon air compressor, and it was taking like an hour to build 10 PSI. So I had to go across the street and grab the old trusty Mastercraft unit. It's noisy as hell, but it makes pressure. So we got her sprayed on, got a pretty good coating on. However, I am seeing we're a little bit light off in a couple of the corners here. So I'm gonna grab the gun and just touch those up. I wanna make sure that we have a nice even layer of PVA over everything, because that's really what's gonna allow us to demold this thing cleanly. So we'll touch that up and then let the PVA dry, and then should be ready to start mixing resin. So let's do it. Things got a little away from me while I was laying that up. I had some issues with the carbon, had to go cut another piece, and then I ended up with too much resin, so I just went for the glory and did it all in a single layup. Basically waiting only long enough in between layers for the resin to get like tacky. And it worked on this one. Maybe we had enough time because it wasn't in the sun. I don't know, but it's all on there. So we got the one layer of carbon, and then 2 layers of just our regular fiberglass chop strand mat on there. So it should be more than strong enough. And then I left it for like 4 hours. So everything's cured up solid. Now we're gonna give it a whirl to demold it. If we did everything right, which I pray we have this time, it should just pop right out of there, and some minor trimming fit right into the car, which is a pie in the sky, but it's what we're aiming for. So let's grab some tools and pop it out of there. All right, that looks awesome. It popped out of the mold pretty good. We did have to pry a little bit, but that's kind of par for the course. The mold and the PVA did their job. We probably could have went a little thinner on the PVA, but I'd rather be too thick than too thin. So that worked out well. There are a couple of spots that that got damaged in the mold. Partially from me prying on it, and maybe because we didn't have PVA covering that spot. It just pulled a little bit of the finish off. So if we do have to recast another dash, we'll have to do a little bit more work on the mold. Probably only a couple days worth of work, but I don't think we're gonna have to. This one turned out pretty awesome. It looks great from what, 5 feet away, looks fabulous. Once you get a little closer, there are a couple of minor imperfections that we're gonna have to fix. There's a little bubble here that I wasn't able to work out, so there's kind of a pocket there. We're gonna have to fill that. It's fitting really tight around those center dash bars, so I might have to open those up a little bit to allow the dash to kind of fully seat in there. So once we do all that, we're probably gonna have to paint this. So the exposed carbon look, as cool as it is, probably isn't gonna last that long, but not a big deal. We were kind of expecting that. We did the carbon top layer largely just to learn how carbon fiber works. So nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I'm not gonna do any of that work today because I am way out of time. So I'm gonna leave it there, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the like and subscribe button. Go check us out on Instagram, Left Foot First Media, and we'll see you guys next week. I'm out of here.